Are ghosts real? Several recent encounters suggest there might be more things in heaven and earth than we can dream of.
So are werewolves just a Hollywood creation, or do half-man, half-wolf creatures really exist? Now, tonight, we kick off our Conspiracy Theory Month series, which was a...
The legend of the vampire actually goes back for centuries, and it exists in some form or another in almost every culture. In fact, some people believe the first vampire story was in the Bible.
Well, for decades, only crackpots and crazy people believed in UFOs. That's what I thought anyway. And then in recent years, it turns out that governments have been taking them seriously all along.
Try and clear up an ancient mystery with the help of a prominent veterinarian who says she can prove that Bigfoot exists and that he's related to all of us.
New reports, 5 pilots coming forward over the weekend saying they've had multiple mid-air encounters with high-flying, fast-moving objects.
Good evening, folks, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Celestial Oddities Oddworld. As always, I'm your host, Garrett Jageman, and I'm thanking you for certainly tuning in tonight. Whether you are listening live or after the fact and streaming this episode or any of our episodes, make sure you click the like, share, and follow button. The more that you do that, the more that it moves us up the podcast community rankings, more people that find out about the show, and the bigger and better things that we can continue to do with the show. It also allows you to keep track of all of our upcoming new episodes as they drop, and gives you great access to all of our past episodes, which we ask you certainly do check out. We always have a lot of great topics, guests, and things of that nature on this show, and I think you would love each and every episode. So don't miss, any of the past ones that we've put out. Tonight we got a very interesting one for you, which I'll jump into in a moment, so hang tight. But we do ask that, you do share that around to your family member and friends so we can spread this around and continue to bring enlightenment to all kinds of people out there on great topics such as paranormal activity, aliens, ghost visitations, all that, and then obviously more my side than Dan's. It's going to be the occult side, the spiritual teachings and things of that nature, which Dan's certainly a part of as well in a different spectrum. Now, I always explain the show to everyone out there if you are new to the show. Celestial Oddities is the name of our radio show, but it is divided into 2 parts. You have Pair of Normal Guys podcast, and you have Oddworld. Pair of Normal Guys podcast is my partner Daniel James and I talking about specific in-depth conversations on topics, where we might pick an episode on Bigfoot or the Yeti. We might pick an episode on black-eyed children and things like that, and we go in-depth on those. Sometimes we will bring someone on and interview them on that side, and we give our thoughts and theories on those topics. The other side of the show is Oddworld, the one you're listening to tonight, and that's comprised of many different things. Phone calls from around the world of people experiencing and telling us their experiences that they've had with paranormal and supernatural. We have interviews with different great people out there in the spiritual side of things or involved in the paranormal and supernatural, and then just a lot of off-the-top random topics and conversations as well. So you can certainly get a lot of different sides of things between the 2 parts of the show, but make sure you check out both as they both are very interesting, and we think you'll love them. You can listen anywhere podcasts are listened to, so whether it's Google Play, iTunes, iHeartRadio, you name it, we are on it, so make sure you check it out. But keep in mind, if you want to talk to us during the show, leave feedback, ask our guests questions, anything like that, you have to do that strictly through Spreaker.com or through the Spreaker app, and that is Spreaker, and then that is our hosting company that we host our show from. Now, we do want to also thank our sponsors, Cryptid TV. If you don't know who they are, go to Facebook or YouTube and search them. Great community of like-minded people where you can talk over all things esoteric and strange, and you don't have to feel like you're the oddball out. Everybody there wants to talk to you about that. They want to network. It's a great, safe, comfortable place to talk, meet people, and discuss your ideas. So make sure you check them out. We appreciate everything that they do for the show. And without any further delay, I'm going to go ahead and welcome our guest for the evening. We do have Garrett Duan, and that's right, I did say Garrett, so it is the Garrett Show today. Garrett and Garrett are going to be talking with one another and certainly having a good time. We're going to be talking about the radical undoing process and what it is that Garrett teaches his students and teaches to help people, find a little bit more clarity in their life, find a little bit more relaxation, and undo a lot of the tension that has, just been slapped on us over the years, which certainly, every one of us, I think, can attest to that. So why don't we let him jump in and tell us about this process, and then we can go ahead and discuss the experience that I just went through as I did the radical undoing process as well. And I'll tell you what, folks, it's pretty amazing. Garrett, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot, man. Glad to be here, Garrett.
Absolutely. I appreciate you coming on and giving me your time today to be able to, discuss with you what it is that you do and some of the other great things that you've been a part of over the years. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the radical undoing process?
Well, radical undoing is a form of bodywork and breathing that makes it sound rather innocuous, but the title will help you remember that it is radical and is a form of undoing. What it's undoing are the deep chronic body tensions that come from the way we live, the way we move habitually, and from any kind of past physical intense experiences. I don't like to use the word trauma because people fetishize it, but let's say past intense experiences can leave chronic muscle tensions. And so you undo those muscle tensions. And it's just like if you were to make fists with your hands all day long and then wonder why you were not capable of doing more with your hands. And then someone told you, okay, open those up, relax your fists. Suddenly you become capable of a lot more. And the same goes for the muscle tensions in the body. So when you break those apart, instead of your body spending caloric energy on keeping muscles tense, it now has converted that tension into more life force, more motivation, more energy that you can actually use to do other things throughout your day. In so doing, it also frees the mind of the conflicts that were keeping those bodily tensions in place. So what I mean by that is when the body has tension, the mind looks for a reason for it to be there. So then if it's in the shoulders, you might feel afraid. And then the brain scans through the body and says, oh, yes, the shoulders are raised, so we must actually be afraid. And then it keeps that cycle going. So we're breaking apart that cycle, breaking apart the tensions in the body, and then destroying the lies in the mind that keep the tensions in place. So that's basically how it works. Yeah, it destroys the tensions, converts, and rids you of anxiety and of stress, tension, all that kind of stuff.
Well, I love your comparison there to if you ball your fists together all day long and try to go about your day, you're not going to be able to accomplish near as much as you could if you open that up. And also, if you squeeze a nice tight fist in both hands and you stand there, even for an hour, and you clench your fists and then you let them go, the difference of that feeling, hell, even do it for a couple seconds, folks. Just clench your fist and then after 10 seconds, let go of it and feel how comfortable it feels to let that go, because it's not supposed to be so tight. It's not supposed to be so firm. You're releasing that tension, and that's exactly what this process does, and I can attest to that, and we're going to jump to that in just a second. But I love that comparison, because you can do more throughout your day if you are not so tense, and you just feel better. It is a relieving process.
Yeah, another way I like to describe it is that people are making a huge amount of extra effort throughout their day in order to remain tense.
Yeah.
So it's actually using up, it's burning calories, it's using energy that you have in order to stay tense. And often that mirrors how people are going about different situations in their life. They might be doing a bunch of extra effort to keep having fights in a relationship, or making a bunch of extra effort to worry about getting fired from a job. And then it actually creates more situations that you have to deal with. So the same thing goes with the tensions in the body. Everything that, all the extra effort you're making there, you can't use to do anything else. So it's often why people complain about, they will think and plan a lot of projects out, but they have great difficulty getting themselves to actually do anything.
No, I agree. I agree 100% on that. And I agree that we all go through life with too much tension, that if we took time to focus on it, the root causes of that and how to alleviate that, we would be much better off, but we don't. We go about our day just continuing to add more and more stress and more tension on. And we think, oh, I take a couple minutes here and there to myself, or I take a couple deep breaths. That sounds nice, but that really doesn't do it, folks. You need to take the time to work on yourself. So if you can take time to do X, Y, and Z throughout the day, you can certainly find time to do something else throughout that day, 20 minutes, 15 minutes, to really do yourself a justice and undo those burdens that are on you so that you can go about your day with a clearer mind and, I think, be more effective and more productive throughout your day.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why don't we flip it, and we're going to kind of let you, I guess, almost interview me for a moment, since you are the teacher of this wonderful program, and we just recently went through it. Folks, right before the show, if you didn't know, right before we went on the air, Garrett went ahead and ran me through the Radical Undoing, and I got to experience it firsthand, see exactly what it is. Because here's the thing, I'm not going to have someone on the show talking about something that they do or a process that they do and me not experiencing it, because I don't think that makes sense. And I always want to be a part of that and firsthand be someone who experiences what we're bringing to you guys so that I can stand behind it, and I 100% do in this case. But let's go ahead and talk about it. Why don't you fire away with me questions you had as the teacher?
Yeah, and one thing I'll mention too is that we did like an overview or a grand tour of the body. But there are around 150 to 200 different exercises you would learn and do over time. You do one or two of those full hour-long or hour-and-a-half-long sessions a week. And then daily there's a bunch of warm-up exercises, so I'll differentiate that. And just so you know, there could be 100 different warm-up exercises as well, but we chose ones that were going to attack some of the most basic chronic tensions, so the face, the shoulders, and the low back. In this case. So yeah, what was it like? So what was your general experience of the undoing session? What's your impression so far?
I mean, right from the gate, I felt it definitely working. And what I mean by that, folks, is right from the start, I could feel the tension in the exercises that we were doing with the face and the neck, and I could say, right in my own head, I'm saying, wow, like I didn't realize that I was that tense as I'm doing it. I could feel the tensity, and then I could kind of feel it start to alleviate a little bit, and the stretches, and they felt good, and it felt comfortable. And as we went through it, there was moments that were extremely relaxing. There was moments that were trying. I mean, during one of the parts of it, I'm like, oh, damn, this is tough, and I'm pushing through it. And wonderful things happen, folks. I was experiencing at one point a humming, like almost like a generator of a giant machine, just humming around me. My whole body felt the hum. I heard the hum. My ears actually started ringing, and I felt this wave come over me, which sounds wild, but it's very true. And it was very relaxing, and it was a wonderful experience to experience. And then it went away, and it actually came back again a little bit later on, even more intense. So it was wild. It was wild to get to hear and feel these different feelings that you don't normally experience. And to tell you the truth, sitting right here doing the radio, I haven't felt this relaxed in a very long time, and I feel great right now. I told my wife in between the phone calls, I walked out and I said, the guy that I'm about to interview is a genius. I said, I'll tell you what, he just made my day. I feel great right now. So if you want to know my opinion, guys, I would say it's something you should look into, and I can always get you the contact information for Garrett and his company, because it's something you should certainly reach out and try to be a part of. It is worth it. Everybody always worries about money. I don't know if I have the money to do something like that. You know what? Find it, because you're doing yourself a justice. Stay healthy, because nothing else matters if you're not healthy enough to go about your day.
Yeah, totally, man.
Now, yeah,
and it's go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, it was truly, though, Garrett, it was an amazing experience. I mean, at one point, and I told you, and you said everybody experiences a little bit differently, but I felt that hum in the background, and I'm like, well, I can hear a hum right now, which I've actually had happen before through meditation several times, but not usually without me being solely in a quiet place in my deep state of meditation, never just talking to someone with my eyes closed in the distance through the speaker. It comes so quickly. It'd be so strong, and then the ears ringing and the feelings that came with it. I mean, everything from feeling like fingers were going up my legs and like kind of tickling my legs and my nose, to just the numbness and tingling in my hands. It was a massive assault of sensations that were all very, very good.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, that tingling is very normal, and especially in the beginning. I'll still get that now, and I've been doing it for maybe 15 or 20 years, at least one session a week. But yeah, in the beginning, maybe there's just more tension or something, but it's like amazing, and it feels like the body's just full of life. Such an interesting experience.
No, it really
this
is.
can go well for people who do other kinds of stuff, like either body-based disciplines like yoga or Tai Chi, and then also occult and Eastern type studies. One of the biggest issues with this kind of pursuit, and I'm not really putting it down because I went through the seeking thing myself, but one of the biggest issues is that people end up working in the dark, meaning they just grab whatever books they happen to find, almost accidentally off the shelf, and then start building all these expectations and ideas about what's supposed to happen and how it's supposed to go. And often then when people do this in groups, they will kind of like everyone has an unspoken agreement to all pretend that they're getting results. And then that usually an elated emotional state or an enhanced or intense emotional state, they'll mistake that for what they call spirituality. They think, oh, my heart's all opening and I feel this emotional release, and then they confuse that with spirituality. So then they seek basically these emotional dopamine hits. And the reason I'm saying all this is with the seeking thing, it's almost impossible to know which books are full of shit and which ones are not until you learn how to put the book to the test of your actual body and of your direct experience. Then you'll know. And after you get the hang of it, then when you open books, you'll be able to tell this author's not speaking from direct experience. This sounds like mystical garbage. And then you'll see some other book where you're like, okay, this person knows what they're talking about, and I know I can get something from this. And you'll know why you're doing what you're doing. So it'll clean up the mess that most seekers find themselves in. And then the practices that do survive the cut, so to speak, will get a lot deeper. So one guy I knew was doing Tai Chi for 3 years, and then he did the undoing work for a while, and then suddenly when he did the Tai Chi, he was like, oh my God, that's what this is. Same with yoga teachers. They were like, oh, now I know what I'm teaching, one guy said. And then even with some psychotherapists that I've worked with, they've even said, okay, wow, now I know what I want to do with my patients, how I want them to, what experiences I want them to have. So it like catalyzes past knowledge and then destroys assumptions and expectations and intellectual frameworks of understanding. Those will get destroyed, and then your direct experience becomes primary. So that's a switch that happens over time with this work. In the beginning, we've built a world of words and out of the intellect, and then we inhabit that world almost like a role-playing character that we've imagined. And then this work destroys that false personality and that false character, brings you back home to your body and to your own organic state. And then from there, you can live life based on that, centered in that. And then you're living in the world of experience instead of just in the world of interpretations.
And that's very important to be able to separate the two of them. And I agree 100% with you on when you get into occult practices and higher enlightenment and start really digging in, if you're someone new to it, it is just brutal. I mean, when you jump in, you don't know where to start. Even when you do pick a place to start, there's so much stuff thrown at you and so many different practices and words and names for things and different ideals that you don't know, am I following the right path? Am I on the wrong path? You start to go down one, you split off into another, and what you end up doing is never actually finding anything. You just have pieces of a dozen different ideas. And as you said, most of it's bullshit. I mean, there's a lot of garbage in this field that people just sprinkle across the top of it, and they make it sound, very enlightening, very intelligent. But when you dig down to the roots of it, you're like, there's really no, backing behind the things that they're talking about. It just sounds good on text and on book to sell books. And that's a shame. And as we were talking about before the show, there's never enough time in the world to research all the things that you would like to research or just read. So if you only got a short amount of time to do so, make sure you're spending that time effectively and not just jumping to ship to ship to ship, because you're never going to get to your destination. So, if you can kind of undo, as Garrett said, and let go of these things, you can get a clear-cut kind of path in front of you. You know which ways to go in, and you can get much further in your practice and become much more enlightened than checking out 25 different subjects, 25 different teachers, and really at the end of the day never learning to master anything.
Yeah, you'd be better with one. If you did one exercise out of one book and really mastered it, you'd be further along than if you read 200 books about the same topic.
Yeah, I agree, exactly. And I've certainly myself have read a lot over the years and come across some good theories, but when you start to dig into them, as I said, I'm like, well, where's this person's backing even coming from? Like, I understand what they're talking about, but you start to look into them, and you're like, I think that they just kind of made this up out of the air. So what kind of truth is behind it? Did I just waste all this time researching this topic for the last 3 months to really come down to the conclusion that there's nothing there? And that'll happen a lot if you're someone new into this area. So you have to try to save your time, save your efforts, so that you can, clearly focus on what it is that you need to. Now, with that being said, how did you get started, Garrett? I mean, what led you into spirituality? What led you into, teaching and all of that?
Well, I had this battle with myself, and it was externalized when I was younger. So it was like I became an anarchist and a punk rocker and all that. And it was fun, a lot of adventures, but I didn't realize that the battle was like externalized, that it was actually internal, and thought something was wrong with the world and all that, and wrong with myself. And then through that, trying to fight, the government and all this crap, I ended up realizing at some point, like, this is a losing battle. This is absurd. They have a military and stuff. This is ridiculous. And what am I doing? And then I started researching. I had read Robert Anton Wilson, Illuminatus, and Schrodinger's cat. I think that kicked open my mind into another way of perceiving things. And then I was reading everything I could by Robert Anton Wilson, and I did all his exercises out of his Prometheus Rising and quantum psychology, and then started reading other authors at that time. And I was reading Crowley, and I joined Crowley's magical group, the OTO, because I met, and I'll say more about that, but I met like 7 different people at different circumstances and times and places in where I lived in Eugene, Oregon. And they were all in that group, and I was like, oh, they're recruiting me. What's going on? I don't know if it was just random or what the hell happened there. And then from there, I wanted to know the roots of that and a lot of other materials. And so I joined the Freemasons. And then I majored in religious studies, so I studied biblical Hebrew and all kinds of crazy stuff, really, and got really deep with all that. And then I found the Radical Undoing, and I'd gotten kind of sick of doing the group stuff. And in terms of if I'd recommend if someone does the group or not, it's like if you like to have barbecues and meet up with people and talk about weird stuff, they're great. And I did actually enjoy that aspect of it. But in terms of this seeking or this quest, I think that the body-based disciplines are going to get you there a lot faster. And it's you could form a group around doing this kind of like Radical Undoing stuff. I have done that, but it's not the same as, moving up in these grades and having an official order or anything. I'd recommend those things if they drop into your lap, but I wouldn't recommend seeking them out. So then I started doing the Undoing out of a book and off DVDs and CDs, and then I went and met Dr. Hyatt and trained under him on how to do all the Radical Undoing stuff, and then was in his DVDs, and then finished the DVD series when he died with the publisher, with Falcon, and then started doing this like around 2010 more professionally, and been doing it and creating workshops around it and helping people through different things using the Undoing as a course. So I've done courses on social anxiety, courses on work and business and creativity and art, and then a bunch of live in-person workshops in England and Norway. And now this year it'll be in Croatia this July. If anyone's listening, there's still a few spots left on that. So yeah, that kind of gets us up to the present. When I did the undoing the first time, I felt like, I think I was telling you this earlier, I felt like the most intense buzzing force in my body that I've ever experienced in my life. And I thought at first I was having a heart attack. I was like, I think I'm dying. Something's really different here. And I had no small motor skills. I had to hold the pen in my fist to write in a journal. And I wrote, this is what it means to be alive. And I realized, I remember looking at my toes and thinking, wow, I just barely think something and they move. And they're so far away. This is amazing to have a body. And it just realized in that moment that it's totally mysterious and amazing just to exist, even if you're in pain. Just to exist at all is a total mind-blowing mystery that you can live in we are living in every single day, and that you're literally the pioneer on the frontier of this life that's unfolding in front of you. So that was utterly amazing. That destroyed a lot of my concepts and ideas and expectations about everything. And I knew I wanted to teach that and share it with other people because it's just amazing to watch what happens for them. It's always different. And one thing I wanted to say is I undid this. My initial reason for doing it was I thought I was going to get magic powers or something. And in a way, that's true, but not in the sense of like Harry Potter waving your finger and shooting fire or lightning. But in the real superpowers are like the power of decision making, the power of focus and presence and attention, which most people understand only intellectually. This work will give you the ability to increase your sense of focus and presence and attention. It'll also increase your tolerance for frustration and anxiety, which means you can go a lot deeper, a lot faster with any other kind of pursuit. So you can be starting to learn to paint, and then instead of it not going how you want, you get frustrated and quit, you actually will have the fortitude to just persist through and see things more clearly. So one thing I wanted to say about the seeker thing is that if your identity is tied up in being a seeker, then it's hard to ever find anything, because you actually moving on from being a seeker would mean that it's like you have a survival threat tied into it. If you've identified yourself as a seeker, then you've actually created a lifestyle that will prevent you from finding what you're seeking, because your social status and your sense of who you are is tied up with being a seeker. And so that's why we end up with 1,000 books on display that say to everyone else, I'm a seeker, I'm into these things, because it gives you this status, but it puts you further away from actually finding what you started out trying to find.
I agree with that 100%. I think that one of the things people need to understand is that magic, yes, you can certainly get powers to an extent of, what people would think of when they think of magic. Not like, Chris Angel magic, but obviously if you're looking like Harry Potter and you're looking at things like that and you're saying, oh, wow, that'd be so cool. And I heard that you can do these things. To an extent, you can certainly reach a lot of powers depending upon how deep and how hard you push for it. It is possible in certain elements, but what people don't realize is some of the greatest powers are things that you already have inside you just need to polish. And I found that out a long time ago during my journey of seeking, and I kept doing tarot readings. I do a lot with tarot. And I was doing tarot readings, and I kept getting the same readings over and over and over again on myself. And I mean, I could literally shuffle the deck 100 times and pull when I was pulling the same cards over and over again. And I'm like, how is this possible? Because it's really trying to tell me a message. And the message that it was telling me is a lot of the things you're seeking, you already obtained. You just need to know it. And you need to push it. And where that became evident is one of my greatest magical powers for myself personally is the power of influence and the power of my personality. So whenever I'm out at events and I'm talking to people, whenever I'm out at meetings and things, I meet a lot of people. I help a lot of people and do a lot for a lot of people out there in the scene. And that right there is a magical power in itself, because there's a lot of people that are afraid to be in front of people or that don't know how to teach. They don't have that gift of being able to just communicate with anybody. You can throw me in front of a person of any walk of life, and I can sit down and have a great conversation with them, and that's a power. But I never looked at it like that. I just was like, oh, I need more, and then we're programmed for that as people, that we always are looking for more, but we don't take time to appreciate the things we have a lot of times. So, that, like you said, you have to step back from that and undo those thought patterns, because then you realize, oh, wait a second, I already am kind of farther into the game than I thought I was, and now I can perfect those things, and then I can continue on my spiritual journey. But if you're just in it to try to become a powerful wizard of some sort, then you're probably on a path for failure, because it's not going to happen like that. You have to be able to take a step back from that and see the bigger picture.
Yeah, and it's awesome. And the radical undoing will also destroy your initial reasons for even getting involved with it in the first place, and then it'll replace those reasons with just living a deeply fulfilling and engaged and embodied life. And why that's super important is because if you are embodied, you're there for everything, and you know the difference between what is going on in your mind versus what's actually happening around you. And that's a huge difference in the way that life will unfold. You'll be much more aware of opportunities, much more aware of when you're just reacting inappropriately to any situation. So everything can just flow more smoothly.
Agreed. It lifts the fog that's in our everyday life to allow you to see through it and say, oh, wait, I never realized that what I'm looking for is right there. And then, I'm already on that path, as I said. And those are important to know what's truly happening, what's your thoughts, what's part of your ego, what the different sections are. And when you can clearly separate them and know that these are in these categories, it helps put things into perspective. And after all, that's what you should be looking for yourself, because if you're trying to get to the end of the road, as I said, you can go in 20 different paths and keep jumping ship to, different paths and things of that nature, but you're never really going to get there. Whereas if you can take the greater picture and step back and look and say, well, I can see all the paths at once, which one do I want to take to get there? And I think that certainly is something that you're helping people with. And even though I've only done one session so far, and it's by far anywhere, it's just the tip of the iceberg, so to speak, you can tell, just in one short session that it would definitely give you clarity. I mean, the visuals I seen during the closed eyes mini meditation session there towards the end, or even the feelings and the buzz at the beginning, similar to you felt a great buzz that made you think you're having a heart attack. I felt a great buzz, and I don't even know what I was feeling. It wasn't a heart attack, but it was like, oh my God, I need to take a breath. I need to breathe, even though the whole time I was breathing. It was radical. It was something in my body had to say, holy hell, what's going on here? What are you doing to me? But then at the end, it thanked me and was like, wow, whatever you just did, I liked it. Let's do it again. So that'll be something I'm mixing into my everyday practice. Before I meditate each morning, I'm going to start doing those things to help me, reach a deeper level of meditation, reach a deeper level of understanding, because I am a seeker, but I am also a realistic speaker and seeker. So it allows me to take a step back from time to time and kind of focus on where I need to be, but this will certainly add to that and make it even stronger, which I really appreciate.
Yeah, awesome.
Now, folks, if you didn't know, I'm sorry, there's a little delay sometimes because of our distance.
Sorry about that. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, that's okay. I was just saying, folks, if you didn't know, Garrett is tuning into us right now from Croatia, so he's a little ways out, which we really do appreciate him coming on. There's a major time difference and things that we had to kind of plan out to make this work for you. Originally from the States, but he's been living over there doing spiritual teaching, and it's just great to be able to have him with us today and sharing. If you've just tuning in to the show at this point, you can certainly rewind back, listen to it from the beginning. Make sure you share that around to your friends, because more and more people need to know about the radical undoing process, and he can help you with that. And once again, I do want to thank you, obviously, for sharing everything you have so far.
Yeah, man, not a problem. I'm really happy that you were willing to try it out. And it's funny, it sounds like nothing if I just said, oh, you're going to lay down, do some breathing, and move your body. But if you ask most people, when's the last time you laid down, deliberately synchronized your body movements with your breathing for a full hour? And the answer is never.
Exactly.
For almost So our mind thinks it knows what it's about ahead of time, but in reality, it's a brand new experience. It's a complete adventure laying there on your couch or bed.
Well, the funny thing is people automatically shut off ideas. So when you say, I have this process that I can do with you, it's going to awaken something inside of you you've never experienced. And as you said, you're going to lay down, you're going to breathe, you're going to move your body movements in certain ways with your breathing patterns. Most people are like, yeah, okay, man, no, that's cool. I believe you. You know what I mean? And meanwhile, they're thinking you're full of shit. It's the same thing with like paranormal. I don't know how many times people meet, because I run a paranormal team and have been involved in that side for years and have had some profound experiences with spirits and entities out there. And I've met people that, are obviously into it. A lot of people are fascinated, but I don't know how many people I've met that are naysayers. They're like, okay, buddy, that's never happened. That I've never seen anything like that. I'm like, when's the last time you went and sat for 10 hours by yourself in a very hot spot location and truly focused and paid attention to what's going on around you to catch that? Oh, I've never done that. Exactly. Shut up. So it's like, you know what? Until you put into practice the things that people know out there, yes, it can sound crazy. As soon as you say that, I'm a practitioner of magic, people get thrown off. They're like, what do you mean magic? And I'm like, no, not Chris Angel magic. I'm talking like actual magic with a K. And people are like, yeah, okay, man, magic's not real. And I'm like, is it? It isn't, huh? Like, well, when's the last time you tried it? When's the last time you dove deep into it and started putting in, practices towards it to see the changes in the world? Because it can sound silly to someone who's never done it, but once you start doing it and seeing the benefits and the change, then it becomes a very real thing. And don't believe just because the media and things have told you that things are real or things are not real, that's always the case. There's a lot of things behind that lead us certain ways. But there's a lot of practices out there that you can practice, folks, that'll change your life quickly and efficiently. But you have to be willing to take the step to try it. Don't worry about what your friends say. Don't worry about anybody else. Seek further enlightenment for yourself, and you might just find a whole new path in life.
Yeah, it's totally amazing. And really, to me, the real magic is in existence itself. And then when we create a lot of ideas and expectations about what is supposed to happen, it can be easy to miss it because it's almost like nothing at all. It's just becoming aware, like turning on a light in a room or something. It's just so basic and simple that then you'll find the real majesty and glory is in existence itself all the time.
It really is. I mean, it's a gift to be here, and I always hate when I see people complaining, I hate life, this life sucks, I don't even want to be here. It's like, you know what, I don't think you have any idea of what an amazing thing this is. There is a higher level of universal consciousness that's all of us. We're all the same. At least that's my belief, that you and I are the same person. We're different bodies, but we're all made of the same higher level of consciousness. And, there's a great body of that out there, but certain chunks of that get to be put into a human physical body and experience what we call our physical life. And that's an amazing thing. Instead of sitting and complaining about it, as you said, find ways where instead of getting stressed about this, like you mentioned earlier, painting. You start to paint and you're not getting as quick as you wanted to be, getting as good as quick, I should say. Instead of getting discouraged from that, find out, what am I doing right, perfect it, what am I doing wrong, and change it. Find a way around the obstacle instead of just standing at it and saying, well, I guess the road's blocked. If you can learn to do that, then there's no need for depression anymore. There's no need to be upset or get thrown off by the little things in life. You move past it, you reach a higher level. When you do that, you realize how much of a gift life really is, and you live it. You don't worry about the constructs that you set for yourself, because as Garrett just said, we hear how life should be and what we expect it to be. And when you go into something expecting exactly what it should be and how it should go, you're always going to be disappointed when it doesn't go that way, but maybe it was never meant to go that way. So when you just let it be and you experience life for what it truly is, life, then you come out of it with a much better understanding, and ultimately at the end you end up being even happier than if it would have went exactly how you wanted it to.
Yeah, totally amazing.
It really is. I mean, it definitely is an alleviator of that. And as we talked about with the groups earlier, for anybody is out there that's seeking you can certainly look into different groups and the ranking systems, and it's not a bad thing. And as he said, you don't necessarily maybe want to just go look for that and automatically jump into a group. But as your path comes along, if that opportunity presents itself, you certainly can. Groups like the Golden Dawn, groups like OTO, and different things like that out there will help you along your journey. But as he mentioned, I like the metaphor that you used earlier with the barbecue. It's great to get together at a barbecue and have a bunch of people that talk about the same things and are in tune with the same ideas. But you really can't perfect making a hamburger at the barbecue. You need to do that on your own time. And once you learn to master the cooking and the barbecue, then by all means, you get together with a group and all of you can cook together and talk about it and have a good time. But I don't feel like going there and learning with 25, 30 other people is necessarily the way to go. Learn on your own, because you are your greatest teacher and you are your greatest asset. So be that for yourself. And once you learn that and unlock those doors and step up, then maybe time to look into the other groups. But I have a lot of people message me and say about groups, should I join this? Should I join that? Or what are your thoughts on that? I'm not against it. It's just, maybe look to really find yourself before you jump into a group that is about that, because then you're more effective for the group and they're more effective for you.
Yeah, totally.
Now, anything else that you wanted to talk about on the spiritual side or on with your program that you're doing that you think the folks out there should know?
Well, we do have the 4-week intensive program. That's kind of the main. Well, there's also a group in Facebook called the Command Z Academy for Mutant Evolution and Training. If you just search Command Z or mutant training, it'll come up. But that is there's like 12 days of work and experiments you can do there to get a taste of it, and that's all free in the beginning, and then the 4-week intensive builds on that, and it's work like this kind of stuff, the radical knowing stuff, plus other experiments and adventures every single day for 28 days. And then there's 12-week elite training that builds and deepens that. So it's 2 full undoing sessions a week, plus the daily kind of exercises, activities, cognitive experiments, and adventures. And then also, like I said, in July in Croatia, we're doing the full week-long, about 7 days and nights, week-long live-in radical undoing workshop, and that includes all the food, all the lodging, all the wine, and everything out in a beautiful place in the countryside here on the Danube River. So that's kind of like how you can get into it. You check radicalundoing.com or get on the email list or find me on Facebook are all good ways to do that. And I post all kinds of stuff about anxiety and overcoming stress and learning how to make decisions and all different kinds of stuff like that. So how you do these exercises is basically how you're doing everything else in your life. So you might find you're forcing the exercises, so you make that adjustment, and then it's easier or automatic sometimes, then in your life things will change. So if I stopped forcing all these exercises, I might notice I stopped forcing a bunch of situations in my life and they flow more smoothly. Same goes for hesitating. Maybe I'm hesitating, holding back on the exercises, and then I realize there's places I'm hesitating in all the different situations in my life. So it's sort of like opening up the control panel on your personality and on your reality, and then changing it so that it flows more smoothly, but without any cognitive forcing, without any intellectual belief system or intellectual ideas about how to change yourself. It just, your own organic growth and evolution starts happening naturally when you stop fighting against it or getting in your own way with chronic tensions. So it's an amazing process. I really think that anyone who's seeking or anyone who wants to just experience real transcendence and live the most deeply fulfilling life it's possible for you to live, this is one of the fastest ways I've ever found to make that possible.
Well, I think if you're listening out there, folks, please give it a try. Open yourself up to something new that will change your life. It certainly will. I promise you that. And as you said, I mean, I got one small sample of it, and I can only imagine a 12-week process of it, and what that would entail and what that could do, and it's something I'm definitely interested in. So, I mean, if you're listening out there, please give it a try. Check out Garrett's pages. Give it a like and a follow. Keep an eye on the things that he's coming out with. He has a lot of knowledge to share with you, and it's something, if you are seeking out there, I think it would help a lot. And if you had to, Garrett, if you had to tell us one thing that along the path you've experienced that you did find is just kind of a roadblock or a delayer to people, what do you think, as far as seekers out there, what is the one thing that you've gotten into, whether it be a specific belief system, whether it be just practices that they have you doing? What is there something that you can think of that comes to mind that you're like, you know what, that was just a major time delayer for me? Because there's a few that I can think of that come to mind that I'm like, wow, I spent so much time on one thing that afterwards I'm like, it just was a complete waste of time for me.
I would say probably, and from my perspective, having a full-time job instead of doing business. I think learning to do business is going to free up so many years of your life if you do it the right way, that makes dedicating yourself to something like Radical Undoing or coming out, to do the workshops live in person. It's going to make all that stuff a lot easier and go a lot faster. Just unless you have a job you really love, I'll put that caveat on there, and you're able to bring yourself to your work completely and with joy and excitement and motivation, then I'd say that was that helped me in my life a lot. And then the other thing is that when you're doing business, you're having to constantly learn and then constantly apply what you're learning, and you get real life results. So that's going to teach you how to think properly. And then when you're going about something as mystifying and esoteric as like the occult or enlightenment or any of these kind of practices, you're going to know how to study and then apply what you learn and then get your results and then adjust along the way. So being responsible for making your own income, doing business, is going to teach you ways of thinking and ways of acting in life that save you a lot of time and effort on doing things that don't work. So getting things happening just on the mundane level is really a good way to start for anybody.
I think so. I agree with that. And it's funny because if you talk to anybody who does run their own business that's doing well and doing successful, they almost all will say the same thing. If you ask them, what was one of the best things you've ever done, or what is one of the time wasters, and they'll say exactly what you just said: working a regular 9-to-5 job or working a job for someone else instead of just doing my own thing and finding out what I'm a master of, finding out the path that I can take for myself to fully run my own life, not just spiritually, not just with everyday life, but with my employment, with my income. I run everything that I do. I'm fully self-sufficient. I don't need to rely on a company or someone else out there. And that's always a common thread that I see that most people that are certainly at a certain level connect with one another and have in common. So you heard it, folks. If you want to get to that level, he can show you steps how to do so. Now, last question before we wrap up and have you do your closing statement here is there's an argument that I see a lot of times in the seeking community, in the occult and esoteric community, when it comes to belief structures, that you got one side of the spectrum saying that to fully reach ascension, you have to learn to kill your ego, to let that go, to completely just demolish that, and then you will truly see life for what it is, and then your spirit and mind will be ready for true higher spirituality, and to ultimately, after you leave this life, ascend to the next realm instead of coming back and reliving it over and over again. You have to get to that. And then you have other cultures, some of the groups that we talked about recently say that you don't need to do that. And I know there's an argument from a lot of old teachings to new, saying, well, new teachings are doing that because, let's face it, the world doesn't want to do anything hard anymore. They want quick, easy, guaranteed results. So if they tell you you don't have to go through the process of killing your ego, you can just ascend automatically. People jump for it. It's only $29.99 a month. You know what I mean? So they have that mentality now for a lot of people, and they're saying you don't need to do that, whereas you go to a lot of the older teachings, they say no, that is absolutely false, that you do truly need to learn throughout the steps of the tree of life, and as you move up the different chakras and things of that there is steps that you learn how to actually kill one's ego to ascend further. What is your thoughts on that matter?
Well, one of the first issues there is a lot of times people who have weak egos are the ones telling everyone else that they need to kill their ego. I'm not sure anyone who's saying it knows what it actually means, because in order to say it to someone else, you'd have to have yours operational. Because without it, everything is perfect. There is no, you wouldn't even be able to notice or have the concept of the idea of ego to present to someone else with, because you'd be viewing events on a clear and present standpoint. You might be able to see someone as acting confused, but one of the issues is you have to strengthen your ego in order for it to be able to let go. It has to feel comfortable and strong enough to survive, that then it's strong enough to actually let go and not be gripping onto everything for dear life. So in this work, we'll do that. You need to strengthen it first, and then it will yield. When you become, I guess, when you just experience the raw and intense force of just being alive and having a body, and then seeing and experiencing the greater organic and everything and external circumstances as they truly are, that will automatically like destroy what we call the ego. But to setting out on a path, making an attempt to just kill it, doesn't make sense to me except on an intellectual level.
It's always kind of confusing for me as well, because I mean, some people say, well, I don't understand, what it means to even kill the ego. How's that done? And well, then you'll hear a lot of the, I'm doing the winky face right now, a lot of the great teachers out there that'll say, well, the reason you don't know what that means right now is you haven't reached that level. But if you do, and you're one of the few who does, then you'll understand. And I'm like, I guess. But, my thing is you can never truly completely kill the ego, even though these people will tell you can, because I think the only way you could do that is if you ascend to the next level beyond the physical body and you're no longer here. Maybe there's a way of doing so, but there's always going to be an ego of some sort. But as you just said, you can learn to cut the strings of the things that shouldn't be a part of your ego, that you can let go to live more, clarity and live a clearer life, sharpen and strengthen the strong attributes that you have within the ego, and that'll allow you to ascend the same way as someone out there trying to tell everyone that you must kill the ego, you must learn to deaden what you've come to comprise as you. Once you learn to let go of who you are, you become who you were meant to be. And it's like, I guess so, but I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think it's cut the dead weight, strengthen the strong points, and if you are of good intent, if you're of purity, then maybe you are ready to ascend. But I agree with you. I don't believe that that's necessarily part of the steps to have to do.
Yeah, and I'd say one of the main things is just don't even worry about it too much. Just get down to work, do the breathing, do the body movements, break apart the tensions, and then let your life, get your life on track. Let your life pull you through it instead of trying to race to the grave.
That's it. Yeah, no, don't be in a rush to. That's the biggest thing I see in this side of things, is that everyone wants to get to the finish line without running the race. And the thing is, you can jump right from the finish line to the, right from the start line to the finish line, in theory and everything. But do you really want to do that? Because you're missing all the wonderful sights and sounds and things that you would experience along the run. So if you jump right to the end, you didn't get to experience any of that. I feel that that's an injustice. And first off, you can't even do it. So you can't just jump to the end. You have to take the journey. But too many people are in a hurry to get to the end to focus on the steps along the way or what's important. The end's the end. You need to experience those steps. So as you said, if you can undo things in your mind, you can take time to really appreciate those steps, and then it'll make everything a little bit more clear and not be in a rush, not worry about everything else. You let it flow naturally, and when it flows naturally, the synchronicities come about. And that's one of the things, is we're too busy in our daily lives. A lot of people ignore the synchronicities around them that are trying to lead them the right way, but they just brush them off. When your mind is clear, you pick up on them, you follow them, and it does lead you exactly where you wanted to go. You just have to be of clear enough mind to spot them. So I think that this process certainly can help with that. Now, did you have anything else you wanted to give us as a closing statement before we wrap out for the evening?
Yeah, just undo yourself. A good life is possible. You don't need to suffer with anxiety and depression. In fact, those don't even really exist. Yeah, I know that physical sensations exist, but those are just categories and ideas, and they're disempowering. And the entire psychiatric worldview will keep you trapped inside your mind, interpreting your life force in the way that they want you to. And once someone has control of how you think about yourself, they are essentially in control of every other aspect of you. So get in touch with yourself, learn how to describe what's actually going on in your body instead of resorting to labels, diagnoses, and other categories that you would not invent for yourself. So learn how to make your direct experience the primary source of information in your life, and then that will put books and stories and secondhand information in its proper context, where you can understand what it is and what it's not, what it's useful for and what it's not useful for. And then life will just be amazing no matter what happens.
Very wise words from a wise man. You heard it, folks. I stand behind that statement 100%. Once you discover who you are and find out who you are, the rest will fall into place as it should. But don't rely on books and things to tell you who you are. Figure that out for yourself, and once you do, the rest can be a great sprinkle, and a great additive to the cake that you're building of life. So love that. I love everything that you had to share with us today, and I want to thank you so much, obviously, for making time out of your day, not only to come onto the show and talk with our fans out there and kind of share what it is that you do, but to allow me to experience it firsthand. It was truly amazing. Definitely think we have some more stuff to talk about after the show with one another. But other than that, I do want to thank you for coming on the show today and sharing with our fans, and really just appreciate it.
Awesome, man. Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, not a problem. Well, you heard it, folks. Make sure you share this around. Make sure you click that like and share button. Stay tuned for all of our other episodes. If you have any questions for myself, you can hit us up at brutalbusinessent@gmail.com. Again, that is brutalbusinessent@gmail.com. If you need Garrett's contact information, I can definitely send it over to you and direct you towards his page. Please try out his program. I think you will really find some benefits of it. And he already told you earlier, so you can rewind back all the different places that you can check him out on Facebook and some of the other social media sites out there, some of the upcoming events and things that he's doing. So if you are in the area, please go to those as well and support him. Great guy, and he deserves all the support that you can give him. Well, folks, we will catch you next time on Celestial Oddities.